of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. George and Lenny, true migrant workers, had been unloaded from bus miles away from the California farm where they were scheduled to begin work. George had sharp, strong features and was small and dark-skinned. His friend was Lenny, a giant man with a shapeless face. Feeling thirsty, the two came to a halt in a clearing near the pool and decided to spend the night there. As the two converse, it becomes clear that Lenny has an intellectual disability, is fiercely loyal to George, and is completely reliant on him for protection and guidance. George discovers that Lenny, who enjoys petting soft objects but frequently kills them by accident, has been carrying and petting a dead mouse. George screams angrily as he throws the disease away, fearful that Lenny will contract it from the dead animal. Although George claims that his life would be easier if he didn't have to look after Lenny, readers believe that their friendship and devotion are mutually beneficial. He and Lenny share ambitions of purchasing their own plot of land, farming, and much to Lenny's delight, raising rabbits. George relished the evening, telling Lenny stories about what life was like in such a beautiful place. The men report to a nearby farm the next day. George insisted on doing all of the talking because he was afraid of how the boss would react to Lenny. He lies, claiming that they traveled together because they were cousins and that a horse kicked Lenny in the head as a child. They have a job. They meet Candy, an elderly swamp or henman with a missing arm and an elderly dog, and Curly, the son of the cruel boss. Curly was newly married, enamored with his flirtatious wife and filled with jealous suspicion. Curly's wife appears and teases George and Lenny when they are alone in the flat. Lenny thought she was pure, but George sensed that the trouble could befall him if he got involved with this woman and her husband, Lenny, and advised him to stay away from him. Soon after, the owner returns from the fields for lunch, and George and Lenny meet Slim, a skilled mule driver with extensive knowledge of the web. Slim remarked on the unusual nature of George and Lenny's friendship. Carlson, another breeder, suggested that because Slim's dog had just given birth, they offer Candy a puppy and shoot Candy's useless old dog.
The next day, George told Slim that he and Lenny weren't cousins, but had been friends since they were children. He described how Lenny was always getting them into trouble. They left their previous job because Lenny tried to touch a woman but did nothing wrong. Slim agrees to give one of his puppies to Lenny while Coulson continues to persuade Candy to kill his old dog. Candy seconds when Slim agrees with Coulson, claiming that will relieve the suffering of animals. Coulson promised to do the job quickly and painlessly before letting it out. Slim goes to the warehouse to do some work, and Coley, who is desperate to find his wife, goes there to meet Slim. Candy overhears George and Lenny discussing their plans to purchase the land and offers her life savings in exchange for the right to live there as well. The three make a deal to keep their plans hidden from the rest of the world. Slim returns to the bunkhouse, chastising Curly for harboring such suspicions. Curly, seeking an easy target for his rage, confronts Lenny and fights him. During the fight, Lenny crushes Curly's hand. Slim warns Curly that if he tries to fight George and Lenny, he will become the farm's laughingstock. The majority of the men went to the local brothel the next night. Crooks, the lonely black stableman, and Candy are left with Lenny. Curly's wife teases them and refuses to leave until another man returns home. She notices the wound on Lenny's face and suspects that she, rather than a piece of machinery, is to blame for her husband's injuries. This thought made him feel better. The next day, Lenny kills his puppy inadvertently in the barn. Curly's wife entered and consoled him. She admits that her life with Curly was a letdown, but she hopes that she has pursued her dreams of becoming a movie star. Lenny tells him that he enjoys stroking soft things and offers to let him stroke her hair. Lenny returned to the Salinas River pool that George had designated as a meeting place if any of them got into trouble. When the people of World War War learn what has happened and gather at the lynch party, Lenny returned to the Salinas River pool that George had designated as a meeting place if any of them got into trouble. When the people of World War learn that has happened and gather at the lynch party, George joins Lenny. George, much to Lenny's surprise, wasn't upset about doing a bad thing. George starts telling Lenny about the farm they're going to start together. The sound of the approaching lynch party grew louder as he described the rabbit Lenny was going to raise. George accidentally shot a friend in the back of the head. When the others arrive, George convinced them that Lenny has a gun, which he snatches from him and shoots. Only Slim realized what had happened. George had murdered his friend out of mercy. Slim comforted him before taking him away, and the others looked on perplexed.